Publishing for Profit podcast is brought to you by Ghostwriters & Co. Earn more money by publishing better content and learn how to increase your thought leadership so you can build your brand. Head over to ghostwritersandco.com for more information. That's ghostwritersandco.com. And now, your host, Joel Mark Harris.
Hello, and welcome to the Publishing for Profit podcast. This is your host, Joel Mark Harris. Today, we are interviewing Melanie Donus, who has a new book out called Leaning on Mom, Letters to Roberta, How a Mom of 3 with Autism Found Strength During the Pandemic. It's really a heart-wrenching tale of how she coped through the pandemic. She is a recovering alcoholic, and she has obviously 3 kids, 3 boys with autism, and how she managed to get through these tough times and really persevere. It's a great story. We talk about how she launched the book, how it started out as a journaling exercise and became something bigger. So it's really a great interview. She has fantastic insight, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I want to start. First off, you wrote a new book, Leaning on Mom. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and the circumstances that arose with you for writing it?
Sure, thank you. Happen to have it right here, of course.
Perfect. Yeah.
The full title, somewhat of a mouthful, but Leaning on Mom, Letters to Roberta, How a Mom of 3 with Autism Found Strength During the Pandemic. And I am a mom of 3 school-age children with autism, 3 boys. And I really found myself in a place that I had never been before during the pandemic. I was very panicked. One of them was having severe behavior challenges. Another one really can't survive without having a continuous and constant schedule, which I knew was not going to be the case. And then another one is completely nonverbal, and we are working on various communication strategies with him that required other people to be around him, as well as outside activities in the community, like learning how to use the restroom, a public restroom, which is something that he still doesn't do, so on and so forth. And, in addition, I found myself facing some mental health challenges, and I lost my mom 3 years ago, and I just started using journaling as a means of therapy, something that I had never done before. So the book is a compilation of 26 letters that I wrote to my mom from from February 8th until June 22nd, which was the first part of the lockdown in the pandemic.
Did it start out as a book idea, or was it purely just a means to journal and gather your thoughts and to I guess center yourself?
Absolutely, it was not a book. I am an independent author. I'm a newbie at this. I do have a little bit of experience writing because I have co-authored 2 books for professional purposes because I'm an executive recruiter by trade. But it really wasn't a book. So many people have told me I should write a book about my family, but I never really felt like I had my niche. My whole network of friends and are pretty much all autism moms or in the autism profession. So we all have seen it all, and I really didn't have anything that I felt like would be unique. And but I did just start out by writing, and after about 3 weeks, I realized that someone may actually enjoy reading this. And actually, I would enjoy documenting it and reading it years and years from now after the pandemic was over.
So was there like a aha moment where I'm like, I'm going to turn this into a book, or was it something that you came to realize over time that maybe this would be beneficial to somebody reading it?
I felt like I had some content that someone may like to read, and then I did reach out to a friend who was an editor, and we started talking about it, and within 20 minutes we started talking about how I could write letters. And then right away the topic or the idea and my aha moment came up about writing letters to my mom, who passed away suddenly 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And I really miss her. I took her passing very hard. I miss her tremendously, and it was very therapeutic. And so it was about 3 weeks in when I decided that the book would be letters to my mom. And at that point, it just started flowing very easily.
Hmm.
And every morning I got up during the first 4 months of the pandemic. I got up at 5 a.m. and I wrote from 5 to 7.
Hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your mom? Obviously, she's was a very influential person in your life, and um, somebody that I'm assuming you looked up to. What was she like, and what sort of relationship did you have with her?
I had a very close relationship with my mom. She was a very devout Christian. She never missed a day of church. She went to church 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening. Oh, and then there was also Friday morning women's prayer group. My mom, during the last 10 years of her life, she walked with a walker, and it was challenging for her to get around. She had several back surgeries, but she was continuously helping others. And she literally went from one person that was in hospice type care to another, including her brothers and friends and neighbors, and dedicated her life to them and her time to them and supporting them during the last few months of their life. I could probably count about 15 people during the last 10 years of her life that she helped that way. She always was reading Grace Livingston Hill books. She loved guideposts. Yes, what can I say? She always loved reading some kind of Christian-based magazine or publication.
And did you always have a good relationship with her?
No, not always.
Hmm.
I have to say, there was a point in my life when I felt like the black sheep of the family. I grew up in West Virginia. Well, part of my childhood was Indiana, and part of my childhood was West Virginia. I am a coal miner's daughter. A lot of people can't believe that, but I'm a very proud coal miner's daughter. My father is also deceased, and right after college, I moved to California. And then I ended up in New York through a job. But there was a period of time when we weren't that close. But after I had my children, we became very, very close. I rarely missed a day without talking to her, sometimes twice a day.
And can you tell us a little bit about your journaling? How long have you been doing it for, and what have you discovered through the process?
Journaling. Well, I really had never used journaling before until February 8th when I started writing. And really at that point, it was kind of just a brain dump on a Google document. And it was incredibly therapeutic for me. It most definitely instigated change and growth that I had never seen before. And I have seen therapists and gotten help from counselors before through my mental health challenges. And I have to say that journaling gave me so much relief and comfort and peace and motivation during a time when I think that we were all very, very low. And somehow, some way, I made it through and I came out with a book. I'm super proud.
And as you should be.
Thank
Uh,
you.
what prompted the journaling? If you had never tried it before or had never thought about the practice, what motivated you to pick it up and obviously become very dedicated towards it?
Thank you. I was at my second bottom in alcoholism. I am a recovering alcoholic, and several years ago I found sobriety, and then 2 years ago I relapsed, and no one knew, and I had tried to get sober again from August through December, and it just wasn't working, and I was going to an outpatient clinic where I go on Long Island. I continue to go to, and then I had to stop going because my son was hospitalized out of state, and he came home and I was still trying to get sober, and every day, no matter what I did, I could not get more than 3 to 5 days under my belt.
Mm.
And then I realized when the pandemic hit that this was time. It wasn't about 2 days or 3 days and then slipping again. This was it. This was my time. I thought that the liquor stores were considered non-essential, and so I knew it was my time, and it was my bottom because I refused to go to the liquor store and then possibly expose my family to a deadly virus. And that was my second bottom.
So if we can dive a little bit deeper into this, what happened that you relapsed the first time?
Oh, very interesting story. Something that I learned about myself, and that is that I did not know how to relax without drinking. When you think about it, we all go to you're drinking at a party, you go to the beach, you drink, you go wherever you're going. You usually have a drink in your hand. And for the first time in 10 years, my husband and I were alone. And I mean, we had gone out to dinner for a few times, but really rarely did we go out. And at that point, I had all three of my children were going to sleepaway camp for 2 weeks together. And I really didn't know what to do with myself. And as soon as the week before, when I was preparing for the three of them to go to camp, I remember I was thinking in my head that I was going to drink. And then when we dropped them off, and as soon as we dropped them off, I told my husband I wanted to go to my favorite restaurant and have a drink, and that's why I relapsed. And I promised when we were sitting at the restaurant, I mean, he just sat there and looked at me and said, "Is it okay? I know you're on medication for alcoholism. Is it okay?" And I said, "I don't know. We'll find out." And I was determined to drink that day, but I promised him that it was only going to be that day, and it turned into every day for 2 years.
Gotcha. And then your son was in the hospital. What happened there?
Yes, I had to admit him to. My son has been hospitalized several times, and we're talking about my son Michael, who is one of the 18-year-old twins, and he had to be hospitalized several times in a psychotic or in a psychiatric unit to get help with medication, to regulate him, so on and so forth. And he was having some pretty challenging behaviors that I didn't feel were safe for me or the rest of our family, especially my other children. And he was in crisis. He was in crisis, and so I searched for an autism inpatient unit, and I did find a hospital in Connecticut, and I had him admitted
Hmm.
in December. Actually, I'm sorry for interrupting. This time last year, he was in the hospital. He was in the hospital during Christmas last year.
Wow. And so you have three kids. They're all on the autism spectrum. Whereabouts are they on the spectrum?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I have 18-year-old twins, and they are mid-functioning. They're very verbal.
Hmm.
Neither one of them are Regents diploma bound. They will get what's called an IEP diploma or a local diploma. After school, they will probably go to a transition program. One of them is in a residential school in Boston. And so he thinks he's in his senior year of school, but what he doesn't know is that this school actually has a college program also. So he'll be there, but he speaks a lot. He's very technology savvy. Dimitri will most definitely have a job. He'll go to a transition program, a 2-year transition program that teaches vocational skills. My 12-year-old is nonverbal. He uses an iPad to communicate his wants and needs.
Hmm. So, I mean, I think that you go through a lot of challenges just like on a daily basis that a lot of people don't. Can you describe some of those things that are perhaps difficult for you that and how you overcome them on a daily basis?
For one thing, I meditate 3 times a day for 10 minutes, and it's hard. I have to put it in my calendar, and I have to stop everything. And even if I have to get out of the house and meditate, I have to do that. And that's been one of the biggest tools that I have learned
Hmm.
through the pandemic, and as well as support. I know alcoholism is very lonely. It's a disease of isolation, as well as being a special needs mom. I'm sure that anyone, I mean, as you know, most of them will smile and say it's okay, everything's great, everything's fine, and I can tell you that probably 99% of the time it's not. And like for example, with my son, who has behavior challenges, he is super talented in technology. He has beautiful language, but in terms of behavior challenges, like the last 2 years of his life, we had the police at our house so many times because of his OCD with Amazon and with hoarding. He's a big hoarder with items. For example, if he has one, he is obsessed with the Wiggles. I mean, he has been. I don't know if you know the Wiggles, the children's group from Australia, and we know them personally because he owns probably $15,000 worth of merchandise from them. For
Wow.
example, if there is one DVD, he has to have that DVD from Canada. And yes, there's a Canadian release, there's a UK release, there's a Japanese release, and then by the dates of manufacture. And then if there's a sticker on the front that says sale, it's different. So he has to have that one as well. And if that comes out and it's hard for me to get that item, and he wouldn't earn it, then the property destruction would happen, the holes in the wall, the slamming the microwave. Starting school every year was a challenge because because the structure, it's a different type of schedule, even though he had it back in June and we tried to keep his schedule as consistent as possible. The first day of school caused a tremendous amount of anxiety for him, and 2 years in a row he microwaved his backpack, which is very scary. So we have challenges like that. Then you get the the three problem in terms of my son Dimitri, who would get very upset when I would try and implement Michael's behavior plan because he knew that Michael was going to scream. So then my son Dimitri, who rarely has property destruction since my son Michael moved away to Boston, but at the time he would try and punch the TV, pour water over the TV. That was his go-to. So a lot of big property destruction challenges.
It's expensive after a while, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. And not to spoil the book, but I think you've read part of it. I think there was one incident with the TV that I talked about very early on during lockdown.
So that's a lot to deal with. What are some of the tools that you have or that you could pass on to somebody else who perhaps is facing similar challenges with somebody with autism that you can pass on to them?
Sure. The biggest, one of the things that I've learned during the pandemic through my journey to sobriety again is reaching out for support. And that's not something that I do easily. And I think it's just critical that you have not only that you have a good support system, and I did have a good support system, but you need to exercise that support system and you need to make that call or, send that text and say, I'm not okay. I need help. Can you talk to me for a few minutes? I know that, it puts you in a vulnerable state, but it's critical that you do that. And I know that in the recruiting world, we talk about networking. One of the chapters that my manager and I wrote about the title of the chapter is networking. It's uncomfortable, but do it anyway. That's one of the biggest tools that I've learned. Solution starts with support.
Gotcha. So what do you think people can what are some of the biggest takeaways that you think people after reading your book, what are some of the things that they can take away and implement in their own lives?
Sure. Thank you for that question. First of all, you do not know what demons someone may be battling. It's always best to take the high road, whether you feel like it or not. Be kind, because you really don't know how someone can be battling addiction or substance abuse, depression, anxiety. I think we're all very good at acting. I think a lot of people were shocked when they read my book because so many people said, I had no idea. You seem so strong, and I admire you for your strength and your ability and your parenting skills. But they had no idea that at the end of the day, I'm sitting there with several bottles of wine and battling getting clean. So first and foremost, just be kind.
So what was the publishing process like? Because there's one thing to do a journal and to have these private thoughts, but then put them out into the world is gotta be scary. It's gotta be tough. Did you find that was the case? I mean, you seem like you're obviously a very open book and willing to talk about all these issues very openly, which I commend you for, by the way. But there still has to be that sense of fear, I think, that what will people think of me? Did you find that was the case?
Somewhat during the writing process, but I have to tell you, when I pushed that publish button, I was shaking in my shoes. So many people, there weren't a lot of people who knew that I am a recovering alcoholic. And even like people close to me didn't know that I had relapsed. So including my mother-in-law, who had been to my house, practically every day. I was very good at hiding my bottles. She had no idea. People in our family had no idea. Yes, it was very scary. However, I feel like it's just so important to bring awareness to, especially to, as you know, I dedicate the book to other special needs moms, because it's just so important that someone really talks about the bad on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on social media feeds. Everything looks great. Everybody's having a vacation. Everyone's having a beautiful holiday. But, I'm a realist. Let's just be real about this. This is what it's really like. And I really wanted to bring awareness to that. And yes, it was scary, but I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, I think up here in Canada too, like there's I mean, it's not in areas there's like very strict lockdowns. We're locked down here, but it's not super strict. But even without the social aspect of day-to-day life, it gets really tough, and it wears down on you. And I think that a lot of people are struggling with you know the isolation and not being able to see people. So what is there anything that people can do to not feel so alone, especially during lockdown in today's pandemic?
Oh, I think it's easier to be social now
Mm,
than it was before the pandemic. I think our world has changed tremendously with socialization and the ability to find people that you have things in common with and to socialize. I am in a 12-step program, 12-step based program, and I have been able to participate in support groups all over the world. And I choose to participate in mainly women's groups, and they are there. There are Zoom calls everywhere. So I just think that people need to reach out and take that time to socialize with others.
mm. And how do these support groups help you?
We are all very honest. We're all very vulnerable. And we are all very real women, just like me, who have significant challenges that others would never know about. And we're all just trying to improve ourselves and enjoy our lives and support everyone around us and be the best person that we can be.
Mm. So going back to the book, you created a website, you've done some marketing. What's what's the end goal with the book, and who do you hope to reach?
Thank you. The end goal of the book is to create mental health awareness surrounding special needs moms. I somewhat feel like it's a taboo topic. Mothers really don't reach out because we aren't allowed to say we're having a bad day. We have a lot of responsibility. I mean, motherhood at any point, special needs are not, is tough. Motherhood is super tough.
Mm,
So the purpose of my book really is to expose the special needs moms and what we live like, what it may look like on a day-to-day basis. And and that's really the end goal of my book. I do it's not about from a financial standpoint. It's not about making income. This is my first book. It's really about sending a message,
mm,
and I'm looking forward to doing that more in 2021. I mean, I think you and I spoke to you about my marketing campaign starting in January, 100 to 100, where I'm going to give away 100 printed books to other autism moms who may feel lonely during the second surge of the pandemic.
mm. And where yeah, I guess where did you come up with that campaign?
I don't know how it just came to my
It's very
mind.
catchy. I really like it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the idea to connect with others. That's the whole purpose of it, to connect. And, I don't have that second page up on my website yet. I'm launching it probably the second week of January. But really, I want to send a message of, are you struggling in the pandemic? Are you still struggling in the pandemic? Well, so am I. Read my book, and I bet we have things in common. Let's connect.
Could you talk a little bit about more of the stigma around, I guess, motherhood and autism?
And what in terms of our expectations?
Yes, expectations. Like it seemed like you said that with motherhood that you're not allowed to have a bad day, and I think that probably resonates with a lot of especially moms, because you need to always seem like a perfect mother, and you need to have everything. You need to have the job, you need to have, be a perfect mom and be there for your kids. And obviously that's not always possible.
No, it's not. And sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
That's all right.
We have a tremendous amount of responsibility on our shoulders. If you're managing, like in my case, I'm managing 3 very disabled souls. And if I go to a clinic, or if I go to an agency that provides help, and I'm very vulnerable and I answer all their questions, and I tell them what my responsibilities are at home versus what I'm drinking, and they are a mandated reporter, then it can put you in a situation that that's not really ideal. It's kind of the same thing as nurses. Nurses, I have a couple of nurse friends who are afraid to get help, or who may be in relapse, and they're afraid because if they get reported, then they could lose their job.
So is there a solution to that? Is there a way that they can get help and there can be that safe space for them without the threat of losing a job, or having kids taken away?
Yes. The solution is to find someone who recommends an agency or a social worker that they have worked with. You have to know someone who is trustworthy. It's very unfortunate that you really can't just find something on a place on the internet, on social media, without a recommendation. You have to get recommendations of people who have worked there.
Gotcha. And so have you, I guess marketing plan aside, what do you envision for the book?
I envision sending it out to a lot more than 100 women. I would love to send it to 100 women in every country. I would love to get sponsors who can help me print. It's not a lot of money, but I'm not a wealthy person. But, I would love to send it to more than 100 people. I would like to send the book and just get attention from various different media sources who can help bring awareness to mental health challenges. In a perfect world, I'd like to I have some ideas in my head about how I can create an organization that is safe for special needs moms and their mental health challenges. Possibly find a partner in a university hospital that could possibly create an agency or a safe place for us.
Awesome. So I'm going to wrap it up with one last question. And this is something I ask all my anyone who's on the podcast. And that is do you have a favorite book or one that you like to gift?
I do have one book that I happen to be very proud of, and it's only because not because I'm a co-author, but I'm very passionate about women returning to the workforce. So any book that's about women returning to the workforce, but I do have a book called On Her Way Back that's a step-by-step guide. And I would be happy to send it to anyone free of cost. If you are a woman and you would like to return to the workforce after being at home for being a full-time mom, I would be happy to send it.
Can you tell us a little bit? So what are the so I know I said that was the last question, but
That's
I'm
okay.
really curious about this now. What are some of the challenges that women face when returning to the workforce?
Oh, that's a great question. Transfer of skills. A lot of women don't know how to transfer their skills or how to articulate it on paper, what they've done in the past, 10 years. I'm sure that there are a lot of organizations that they've been involved in. There are a lot of projects that they've worked on pro bono, and they need to be able to articulate that onto paper that is attractive to a recruiter. In addition, they need to know how to beat the ATS system, which is applying online, and how keywords, have your social media profiles set up properly. Also have a plan. You have to be organized in what you want to do. You have to have it all perfectly organized in terms of your job search, and in terms of what industry you want to be in and what job roles you want to be in. You can't be scatterbrained and have it all over the place. Those are the main parts to having a successful job search. I love supporting women.
Awesome. So thank you for being on the show today. For people who want to reach out to you, what's the best place to find you? Where can they buy the book?
Sure. My website is melaniedonus.com, and my book is on Amazon, called Leaning on Mom. And my email address is embrace, EMBRACE, autism67@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for listening to Publishing for Profit. Please like and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.